Welcome to another episode of the Move IQ podcast's First Home Focus series. If you're an aspiring first-time buyer, we're here to help with bespoke advice and guidance. Now, one of the most critical steps before applying for a mortgage is saving for your deposit. It stands to reason, doesn't it? But how can you do this, and where should you save? Well, today, Emma from Skipton Building Society joins us to discuss first-time buyer saving options. So, Emma, why would you say it's important for first-time buyers to have a scheme to help them save?
So it's really important because we know that the deposit is one of the biggest barriers to becoming a homeowner. It's important because it really sets aside that deposit, and you can keep track of it and you can see it building. Yeah. So if you have it in a current account, you've usually got lots of transactions coming in and out every day, and it kind of gets you into that savings habit.
So it's more motivational if you can see it building up. And then I guess if you've got it in a separate account, you're never tempted to...
There's a psychological barrier there, isn't there? So, you really have to think about what it is that you might need to dip into your savings for, and whether you really need to do that, or whether there's something alternative. What I would also say as well is that savings can come in many different guises. So you've got savings schemes like saving for a deposit, but there are also saving schemes out there that actually help you save on the price of a property as well. Okay. So it's really good to do your research to see, how you can get yourself onto the property ladder.
Are these government schemes and things like that?
Yeah, there's government schemes where you can get various bonuses, or look for a house that's got a reduced purchase price.
On that topic, I'd love to talk a little bit about the Help to Buy ISA and how that works and who it's suitable for.
Yeah, so the Help to Buy ISA it's not currently open for people to take it out, but there's a lot of people that are currently saving in their Help to Buy ISA, and lots of people have taken advantage of the offer as well and gone on to buy their own home.
So people who have a Help to Buy ISA, so existing customers, for want of a better word, well, what do they get?
So they can save up to £200 a month into the Help to Buy ISA, and then just before their property purchase completes, they'll get a 25% bonus from the government. It has to then go on to that property purchase. It can't be used for other things. Yeah. But, a 25% helping hand from the government is definitely something that will be welcome for first-time buyers.
And how long left of the scheme is there?
So that's available. You've got until 2029 to buy your house. So there's a good 5 years left on that yet.
But you have to, am I understanding it correctly, you have to have been on the scheme now?
Yes. So you can't open an account now. Yes. But there's plenty of people that currently have a Help to Buy ISA that will be saving for their property.
Understood. So. And they've got until 2029 to take that up. Understood. And what about the Help to Buy equity loan? How does that assist first-time buyers?
So there's been a lot of people that have taken out the Help to Buy equity loan scheme. So it's still available in Wales at the moment, and it was available in England until 2022, and Scotland had a slightly different variation on that as well.
So essentially it's a government loan to help first-time buyers who have a smaller deposit, so they can stretch a bit further, is that it?
Yeah, so we know that not all first-time buyers will be able to afford homes in the area that they live in. Outside of London, it's 20% contribution, and in London it's 40%, where house prices have typically been higher over the years.
And the terms of the loan?
So it's interest free for 5 years. So for the first 5 years, you won't be asked to pay anything, but after 5 years, then you will need to pay interest on the loan. Okay. You are able to pay it off as well. So if you build enough equity in your property, if house prices rise, you may be able to take further borrowing in order to clear that loan, or if you move house as well, you will need to pay it back.
So the kind of nuts and bolts of it are, you have your deposit, whatever you've managed to save.
So it's typically 5 to 10%.
You
deposit.
then take the government loan, which is interest free for 5 years, and then you apply it for another mortgage in the normal way.
Yeah, you do. It follows very much the traditional path when it comes to mortgages and choosing your mortgage. You may be limited on lenders that would offer would have offered a shared equity loan, but there's plenty of options out there in the market, and I would say have a chat with a broker or mortgage advisor to see what.
Okay, has it been popular?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And what about the lifetime ISA, the benefits and the conditions of those?
Yeah, so the good news is about the lifetime ISA, it is available for people to open today. So that again is backed by the government. So what people can do is they can save up to £4,000 per year. That goes towards your ISA allowance, and then you will get a 25% bonus from the government up to a maximum of £1,000 a year. So again, it is that extra contribution. It's quite a significant contribution that you will get from the government. There's a few things to bear in mind though, because it's not available for everybody. So you need to have opened your lifetime ISA and made your first payment in by the time you are 40, and you will have need to take advantage of the government bonus. You will need to have purchased your property by the time you are 50. But I think it's a really good option because it's recognising that first-time buyers are getting older. I think the typical age of a first-time buyer now is 33, 34?
Yeah, going up all the time.
Yeah, and I just think back to, my parents' generation. They bought their house, I'm guessing 20. That seems unheard of nowadays. So again, it's more options for people. And I think there is a recognition that it is really hard to save that deposit.
Are there alternatives to mortgage ISAs?
Yes, of course there are. So just because there's a mortgage ISA doesn't necessarily mean that you have to save your deposit that way. So you could take out a regular saver. So what they are designed to do is get people saving little and often, building those regular savings habits every month. You could opt for an easy access account depending on whether you feel like you may need to dip into your savings from time to time to cover something that's unexpected. But also as well, as I've said before, the savings isn't necessarily about saving for the deposit, it's savings another way. And there's the shared ownership scheme as well, which allows you to buy a small percentage of a house rather than the full amount. And it means that you'd be able to get a share of a property and be a homeowner quicker.
I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of help out there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of schemes, there's a lot of different options, but it is down to people to do their own research.
Of course.
And talk to their brokers and what have you to get the right information, because everybody's situation is different.
Yes.
But the challenge that everyone will face is actually to save for the deposit to start with.
Yes.
Do you have any kind of practical tips on how best to do that?
Yeah, so I think we can't underestimate what goes into saving for a deposit. It's a very long-term goal. And if you're somebody that likes instant gratification for something, that it's a really hard mindset to get yourself into. Sometimes it can take years to save for your deposit. Quite widely, there's talks about the 50-30-20 rule. And it's very generic, so obviously people won't necessarily fit into that. But the idea behind it is that 50% of your monthly income will go on essentials or your needs, so things like rent, food, bills, that kind of thing. 30% will then go on wants, so your hobbies, socializing, that kind of stuff, and then 20% into savings. Now, not everybody fits into that kind of the way that they carve their own money up, and especially with the cost of living crisis recently.
Yes, and the increase in rents.
Exactly.
Hard.
That may look more like 60%, but I suppose by having a look and scrutinizing your spending, what that will do is get you into the mindset of dedicating a specific amount every month or a specific percentage into going into your savings account. And you'd be surprised how quickly that could build up and look like quite a healthy amount.
It is the regular little smaller sacrifices that you need to make.
There is. And, I would say if you get into the habit of scrutinising everything that you're spending, I know that there's been talk about, you could cancel your streaming subscription and then you will be able to have your deposit. And it's not as easy as that.
My friend Kirsty had a few comments on that.
But it's more about being mindful of what you're spending and seeing if there's something, an alternative way you could go about it. So a good example is if you need to buy a piece of furniture for your house, for example, you need to replace it. Is there something secondhand on the market that could be a fraction of the price, but as good as new? It's
often the small things that make a difference.
It is. And I suppose another option, and it's not available for everybody, is, is there an option to move in with family? And, families traditionally don't charge the same board or rent as landlords do, and it could be a really efficient way of saving quickly.
Yes.
You don't want to sacrifice your relationship with your family. I know, I'm not sure my parents would necessarily have me back under their roofs as well, but
we've seen that quite frequently filming location recently, where couples have moved back with their respective parents, being able to save up a bigger deposit quicker and then afford somewhere
Yeah. And I think like people with their parents' generation, for example, that, you know, they understand how difficult it is to save for a house nowadays. It's not quite as affordable as it used to be.
It depends how many sacrifices people are prepared to make.
True.
Any final advice for first-time buyers?
All houses generally come with some form of compromise, and everybody would love to have everything on their wish list ticked off, and quite often that isn't the case.
I doubt there's a first-time buyer in the land that manages to buy exactly what they want, where they want it.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt there's any buyer in the land that can actually tick off everything on their wish list without some form of compromise. But there's certain things that you might find are non-negotiable to you. So have a think about the location of the property, how many bedrooms, whether there's a drive or whether you're parking on the street, what kind of garden you've got, is there a pub at the end of the road, that kind of thing.
There's a lot to think about.
There is, and it's working out what are your non-negotiables, what do you actually need from a house, and what is more of a want. And once you have got to the bottom of that, you will then be able to understand, okay, well, what is my budget? How much will that house cost me? And therefore, what is my deposit? And it's a really good place to start.
Okay, I see what you mean. Rather than looking at how much you've saved, then looking at the mortgage and then thinking, okay, so that's what I can afford. Where should I go looking?
Yes.
So I guess there's two schools of thought.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's all stuff that you can do while you're saving, because, you know, the savings are...
Yes. How much do I need to save in order to buy what I want?
Exactly.
Or this is what I've saved. What could I buy, and is that sufficient?
Yeah, and it's being mindful as well. It's not just saving for the deposit. You may have you will have legal fees. There may be valuation costs, and also as well, you know, for somebody that's never owned somewhere before, they may have to buy a whole load of furniture for the house, and it's not cheap kitting out a
something
house.
I've said in the past. It's not just buying the house. You've got to live in it. You've got to run it.
Exactly.
You've got to heat it. You've got to put furniture in it.
Exactly.
And just to finish off with. Credit scores, something everybody worries about. I know the different lenders analyse them quite separately, but how would somebody go about improving their credit score?
So I think one of the first things they can do is actually go on to one of the websites and have a look at what is on their credit file as well, make sure it's accurate. Some people may not have much of a credit history, and I know one thing that has been suggested in the past is for stuff that you would have spent anyway, why not put it on a credit card and clear it monthly? And what that shows is actually you are a good payer, you know, and you are to essentially be trusted with a mortgage.
Yeah.
So it's really good, and there'll be all sorts of individual tips on there that are tailored for you, you know, once you've done your research.
Emma, great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Wise words indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Move IQ's First Home Focus podcast. We hope you found our tips and advice helpful. Remember, home ownership may be closer than you think, and we are here to support you every step of the way. So please don't forget to subscribe, rate and review our podcast so you never miss an episode. Until next time.